Good morning, dear students. Welcome back to our science class. In the last class, that is through our Google Meet, we discussed what we learned in our previous classes. That is about the process of photosynthesis. Did you remember what we learned in our previous class? Yes, all of you try to say together. Photosynthesis is the process of synthesis of food in the presence of sunlight. Okay, what do you mean by photosynthesis? Yes, photosynthesis means the synthesis of food in the presence of sunlight is called photosynthesis. Okay, children, plants make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. In the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and minerals, and also chlorophyll pigment present in the leaves. Plants synthesize their own food. Okay, children. So, by the process of photosynthesis, glucose is formed and oxygen is liberated through the atmosphere. Okay, today we are going to discuss another topic. Leaves other than green also have chlorophyll. Okay, some of the leaves that are not green in color. Here you can see one picture. All of you look at the picture. Yes, here the picture shows leaves other than green color. Okay, some of the leaves that are not green in color, but they are also capable of make food because the green pigments present in the leaves are masked by other pigments. Okay, the green pigment, that is chlorophyll, is also present in these type of leaves. But the green pigment is masked by the other pigments. But the process of photosynthesis is also takes place in such leaves. Next we are going to discuss another type of plants. There are some type of plants that are plants, but it is not like plants we can see around us. It does not have stem, roots, etc. but green in color. Yes, here you can see one picture. These are usually found in ponds and other stagnant water. These are called algae. Okay, these are plants, but the plant-like structure is absent in such plants. It does not have stem, root, etc. But the green color that helps the plant to synthesize their own food. We can see these kind of plants inside pond and stagnant water. They contain chlorophyll. So they are able to make food. That is, the process of photosynthesis takes place in these plants also. Okay, this kind of plants is known as algae. Okay, children, these kind of plants known as algae. The spelling of algae is algae. Algae. Next we are going to discuss synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates. As we all know, through the process of photosynthesis, a plant synthesizes carbohydrates, that is glucose. They use glucose for their bodily activities, and the rest of the glucose that is stored in the form of starch. So, starch is the stored form of carbohydrates in plants. All of you listen. Starch is also known as a stored form of carbohydrate in plants. But how do they get other nutrients? Yes, here we we need nutrients for our body growth and development. So, as like plants also need nutrients for their bodily growth and development. Carbohydrates means they contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. These are essential for the synthesis of protein and fats. But proteins are nitrogenous substances which contain nitrogen. Here we are going to discuss where do the plants obtain nitrogen. Listen carefully. plants also require a lot of nitrogen to make protein. So they absorb nitrogen continuously from the soil, due to which the amount of nitrogen to becomes diffusion. As we all know, there are 78% of nitrogen present in the atmosphere. Okay, there are 78% of nitrogen present in the atmosphere. But as in the case of plants, they cannot use nitrogen directly. They can use carbon dioxide. The required nitrogen is insoluble form. So, the bacterium called Rhizobium. Here, the picture we can see the bacterium Rhizobium that can take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into soluble form. Okay, the required nitrogen is in the form of insoluble form. So, the bacterium called Rhizobium that helps a plant to take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into the insoluble form nitrogen into soluble form. These bacterium live in the roots of grams, peas, beans and other legumes. Here the plant provide food and shelter for the bacterium. Thus we can say Rhizobium show a symbiotic relationship. Okay. Listen carefully. The bacterium called Rhizobium can take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into soluble form. These bacterium that live in the roots of grams, peas, beans and other legumes also. Here the plant provide food and shelter for the bacterium. So we can say Rhizobium show a symbiotic relationship. This is very important topic. All of you listen carefully. Symbiosis means a mutually beneficial relationship. Here we can see there are two organisms, that is two different organisms, a plant and Rhizobium bacterium. They live together and both of them have advantages. Okay, by the process of a bacterium, it helps a plant to synthesize nitrogen and a plant provide food and shelter for the bacterium. So, this relationship is known as symbiotic relationship or symbiosis. Okay, children? Yes. Next, we are going to discuss about other modes of nutrition in plants. Here, we can see there are two types of nutrition takes place in plants. We already discussed in our previous class. Okay, autotrophic mode of nutrition means a plant synthesize their own food by themselves. Okay, here the word itself says what it is. Auto means self and trops means nourishment. Then the next one is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Animals and most other organisms take in food prepared by the plants. They are called heterotrophs. Hetero means other and trophs means nourishment. Okay, children, there are some plants which do not have chlorophyll. They cannot synthesize food. So, here we can see there are four types of heterotrophic plants. We can divide heterotrophic plants into four. The first one is parasitic plants. Second one is saprophytic plants. Then the third one is insectivorous plants, and the fourth one is symbiotic plants. First we are going to discuss about what do you mean by parasitic plants. Cuscuta is an example for parasitic nutrition. In parasitic mode of nutrition, we can see the word para means others. Here, the nutrition takes place in an organism derives its food from the body of another living organism, that is called host. The organism which obtain food is called parasite, and the organism from whose body food is obtained is called host. Okay, all of you remember, in a parasitic mode of nutrition, we can see the organism which obtain food is called parasite. Okay, and the organism from whose body food is obtained is called host. Parasitic plants are those which absorb food from another growing green plant is called the host. Okay, children, here you can see A tree with yellow wiry branched structure twining around the stem and branches. This is a plant called Cuscuta. It does not have chlorophyll. So here the parasitic mode of nutrition takes place. Here we can see in a Cuscuta they are highly deficient in chlorophyll and are parasitic on other plants, and it have tiny scales instead of leaves. Here we can see the parasitic mode of nutrition. Cuscuta has a wiry twinning vines of the morning glory family that are highly deficient in chlorophyll and are parasitic on other plant, and it have tiny scales instead of leaves. There are around 170 species around us. We are going to see what kind of nutrition is observed in these types of plants. It is a leafless plant. They are parasitic because they cannot able to make their own food. They have a thread-like twin plant which will twin around the host plant food to get its nutrients, food, shelter, everything from the host plant. They cannot prepare their own food. Here we can see a word host. Host means a plant on which it climbs is called host. This is very important. Host means a plant on which it climbs is called host. The mode of nutrition in a parasitic plant, we can able to see these plants in the tropical region. They move one place to another place along with their host plants. If we notice that the plant structure, they do not have chlorophyll. It is absent. In the absence of chlorophyll, they have no leaves, and also the leaves are reduced into spines or scales. They are very thin, they are string-like, and they will coil around the host, and their color may be vary from white, pink, orange, and sometimes brown. They cannot able to make food themselves, so they grows on other plant and using their nutrients for its growth and weakening the host. Okay. Here they have no mutual benefits. Next we are going to discuss insectivorous plants. Pitcher plant is one of the best example for insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants are those plants that derive some or most of their nutrients by trapping and consuming animals, mainly insects. Here you can see a beautiful plant. We cannot imagine such good looking plants. They eat insects. Plants that feed on animals, especially insects, are called insectivorous plants. The structures of these insectivorous plants which trap insects are actually modified leaves. They naturally found in the areas where soil lacks nutrients. They obtain their additional nutrient supplements from the animals they trap. Okay, these insectivorous plants have special trapping mechanisms to catch their prey, and they have a special enzymes to absorb them. Here I am going to show some kinds of insectivorous plants. Pitcher plant and bladderworts are one of the best example for insectivorous plants. Here you can see a picture of pitcher plant. It has just like a picture of jug. Okay, the shape of the plant is just like a picture of jug. Here the insect goes into the pitcher and looking for syrupy fluid inside the pitcher plant. Okay, but they stuck inside the pitcher and the lid is closed. Then what happens after that? Yes, the plant secrete enzymes or digestive juices inside the pitcher and the insect is digested. Once again, insectivorous plants are a type of plants that derive some or most of their nutrients by trapping and consuming animals, mainly insects. Okay, next we are going to discuss about saprophytic nutrition. Saprophytic nutrition means the word sapro means rotten. It is a type of nutrition in which an organism obtains its food from dead and decaying organic matter. Such organisms are called saprophytes. Saprophytic plants are the plants that live off rotting material. They grow in places with lots of rotting and dead leaves, often in deep shade in tropical forest. Fungi growing on bread is one of the best examples for saprotrophic nutrition. Here they have a different mode of nutrition takes place. They absorb the nutrients from the bread, and this mode of nutrition in which an organism take in nutrients from dead and decaying matter is called saprotrophic nutrition. Such organisms with a saprotrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs. Next we are going to discuss symbiotic relationship. Here, when two organisms exist in a close involvement with each other for their mutual benefit in nutrition, the type of nutrition is called symbiotic nutrition. Lichen, an association between an algae and a fungus, is best example for symbiotic nutrition. A lichen is not a single organism. It is a stable symbiotic association between a fungus and algae. Like all fungi, lichen fungi requires carbon as a food source. This is provided by their symbiotic algae that are photosynthetic. The word symbiosis means some organisms they live together and share both shelter and nutrients. This relationship is called symbiosis. We already discussed the symbiotic association in between the leguminous plants and Rhizobium bacterium. Next we are going to read our textbook. So dear students, all of you take your pencil and try to read together. Okay children, here you can see the leaves other than green also have chlorophyll. The leaves other than green also have chlorophyll. Okay. The large amount of red, brown and other pigments, they mask the green color. Photosynthesis takes place in these leaves also. Okay, here we can see there are in some plants the leaves that are not in a green color, but they also contain chlorophyll pigment. But the chlorophyll pigment is masked by the green pigments are present in the leaves are masked by other pigments that may be red, brown and other pigments they mask the green color, but the plant itself they contains chlorophyll pigment. So the process of photosynthesis also takes place in such kind of plants. They are capable of make their own food. Here you can see another type of plants. We can see slimy green patches in ponds or stagnant water bodies. These are generally formed by the growth of organisms called algae. Okay, we can see slimy green patches in ponds or stagnant water bodies. These are generally formed by the growth of organisms called algae. This is another type of plants. These are another type of plants. Here we can see this type of plants are around us. Mainly we can see such a kind of plants in a slimy or green patches in the ponds and stagnant water. Okay, it does not have a plant-like structure, that is stem, root, etc. are absent in such kind of plants, but green in color. So the pigment present in the plants that are capable of a plant for synthesize their own food by the process of photosynthesis. They contain chlorophyll which gives them the green color. Algae can also prepare their own food by photosynthesis. Okay, we can see this is another type of plants, but the plant-like structures are absent in algae. we can see algae in ponds or a stagnant water. They synthesize their own food with the help of chlorophyll. Next, we are going to discuss synthesis of food other than carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, through the process of photosynthesis, a plant synthesizes glucose. Okay, through the process of photosynthesis, a plant synthesizes glucose. Glucose is also a carbohydrate, and the carbohydrate are made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. These are used to synthesize other components of food such as proteins and fats. Here we can see plants also need nutrients. We know that we need nutrients for the growth and development. As in the case of plants, they also need nutrients for the growth and development. But proteins are nitrogenous substances which contain nitrogen. Okay, a plant which need proteins and fats for the process of growth and development. And these proteins are nitrogenous substances. Plants cannot absorb nitrogen directly. So, soil has certain bacteria called rhizobium that convert gaseous nitrogen into a usable form. The rhizobium bacterium that convert gaseous nitrogen into a usable form and release it into the soil. Here, there are 78% of nitrogen present in the atmosphere, but a plant cannot use nitrogen directly because the nitrogen is in the insoluble form. So the bacterium called rhizobium can take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into soluble form. These are absorbed by the plants along with water. You might have seen farmers adding fertilizers rich in nitrogen to the soil. All of you remember the atmospheric nitrogen that is present in the air that are absorbed by the soil and converted into nitrogenous substances in the presence of bacterium called rhizobium. Okay, which we can see the rhizobium bacterium in root nodules of leguminous plants. They converted insoluble nitrogen into a soluble form. So, the leguminous plant that provide food and shelter for the bacterium. Thus, we can say a rhizobium shows symbiotic relationship here. Next, we are going to discuss other mode of nutrition in plants. Here, we can see we already discussed the mode of nutrition takes place in a plant are autotrophic and heterotrophic. There are some plants which do not have chlorophyll. Okay, they cannot synthesize their own food. We already discussed autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs means they synthesize their own food by the process of photosynthesis. And heterotrophs means they cannot able to make their own food. Humans and animals, such plants, they depend on food produced by other plants are called heterotrophs or heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Okay. Autotrophs make their own food, but in the case of heterotrophs, they cannot able to make their own food. We can divide heterotrophs again into 4. Okay, first we are going to discuss about what you mean by parasitic mode of nutrition. Okay, here we can see a yellow wiry branched structure. A yellow wiry branched structure twinning around the stem and branches. This is a plant called Cuscuta. In heterotrophic mode of nutrition, we can see the first one is a parasitic mode of nutrition. A yellow wiry branched structure that is called Cuscuta plant. They are leafless plant. They are parasitic because they cannot able to make their own food. They have a thread-like twin plants which will turn around the host plant to get its nutrients. Here we can see the plant which it claims it is called host. Okay, it does not have a chlorophyll pigment. It takes ready-made food from the plant on which it is climbing. And the plant on which it climbs is called host. Here we can see a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. This is known as parasitic plants. Parasitic plants, they absorb food from another growing green plant that is called host. Okay, yellow wiry branched structure. They absorb nutrients from other plants. Here the word para means others. Here the nutrition takes place in organism derives its food from the body of another living organism. Such another living organism is called host. The organism which obtain food is called parasite, and other organism from whose body food is obtained is called host. Here we can see the picture. Here they have no mutual benefits. Okay, here they have no mutual benefits occurs. Next we are going to discuss insectivorous plants. Okay, have you seen or heard a plant that can eat animals? Yes, there are a few plants which can trap insects and digest them. Such type of plants are called insectivorous plants. Plants may be green or of some other color. The pitcher-like or jug-like structure is the modified part of leaf. The apex, the pitcher-like or jug-like structure is the modified part of leaf. The apex of the leaf forms a lid which can open and close the mouth of the pitcher. Inside the pitcher, we can see root hairs which are directed downwards. When an insect lands in the pitcher, the lid discloses and trapped insect gets entangled into the hair. The lid closes and the insect is trapped. The insect is digested by the digestive juices secreted in the pitcher and its nutrients are absorbed. Such insect-eating plants are called insectivorous plants. Okay, insect-eating plants are called insectivorous plants. Example, pitcher. Here we can see a beautiful plant. The structure of the plant is like jug. Okay, the picture shows a jug-like structure of the plant. The structure of the insectivorous plants which trap insects are actually modified leaves. They naturally found in the areas where soil lacks nutrients. Here, the specialized structure of insectivorous plants that attract the prey, and the insect goes into the pitcher and looking for syrupy fluid in the pitcher, but they stuck inside the pitcher plant and the lid is closed, and then the plant secrete in enzymes and digestive juices inside the pitcher and the insect is digested here. Okay. Here we can see the plant pitcher is a partially heterotrophic because they obtain additional nutrient supplements from the animals they trap. Okay. Next we are going to discuss about saprotrophic nutrition and saprotrophs. There are some organisms called fungi. In this picture we can see fungi growing on bread. They have a different mode of nutrition. They absorb the nutrients from the bread. This mode of nutrition in which an organism take in nutrients from dead and decaying matter is called saprotrophic nutrition. It's a type of nutrition in which an organism that obtain its food from dead and decaying organic matter. Such type of nutrition is known as saprotrophic nutrition. Such organisms with the saprotrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs. Saprotrophs are plants and such plants that live off rotting material. They grow in plants with lots of rotting dead leaves, often in deep shade in the tropical forest. Fungi also grow on pickle, leather clothes, etc. Here, some organisms they live together and share both shelter and nutrients. This relationship is called symbiosis. Okay, there are some organisms they live together and they share both shelter and nutrients. Such a relationship is known as symbiosis. Here, we already discussed in the leguminous plants and rhizobium bacteria. They show a special type of symbiotic relationship, mutually beneficial association of two different kinds of organisms are called symbiosis. Okay, children. In leguminous plants and rhizobium bacterium, we can see the rhizobium bacterium get food and nutrients from the plants and plant get nitrogen. Okay, in organisms called lichens, a chlorophyll containing partner which is an algae. Okay, chlorophyll containing partner and the fungus live together. A lichen means chlorophyll containing partner which is an algae and a fungus live together called lichen. The fungus provides shelter, water and minerals to the algae, and in turn the algae prepares and provides food to the fungus. So this is one example for symbiotic relationship. Okay, children. Symbiotic relationship. Another example is leguminous plants and rhizobium bacterium. Here symbiosis means mutually beneficial association of two different kinds of organisms. Okay, children. Yes, so all of you write here leguminous plants and rhizobium bacterium. This shows symbiotic relationship. For symbiotic relationship, there are two examples. The first one is lichens and the second one is rhizobium bacterium and leguminous plants. Symbiotic association of algae and fungus called lichens. Next, we are going to discuss how nutrients are replenished in the soil. Fertilizers and manures contain nutrients such as nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, etc. These nutrients need to be added from time to time to enrich the soil. Okay, fertilizers and manures that contains nutrients such as nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, etc. These nutrients need to be added from time to time to enrich the soil. Okay, we can grow plants and keep them healthy if we can fulfill the nutrient requirement of plants. Nitrogen gas is available in a plenty in the air. Plants cannot use it in the manner. They need nitrogen in a soluble form. The bacterium called rhizobium can take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into a usable form. The bacterium called rhizobium that can take atmospheric nitrogen. We know that the atmospheric nitrogen is in the insoluble form. So the rhizobium bacterium that convert insoluble form of nitrogen into soluble form. Okay, and the plant that provide shelter and food for the organism. So here we can see a symbiotic association. It often lives in the roots of gram, peas, bean and other legumes. In turn, the plant provide food and shelter for the bacterium. So here this is a type of symbiotic relationship. Here both the organisms get mutual benefits. Okay, so the nutrients are replenished in the soil. Okay, children. Yes, this association is of great significance for the farmers. They can reduce the use of nitrogen fertilizers. Okay, children. Yes, now we finished our first lesson. So today you will have some homework. All of you try to read the lesson carefully and do the homework. Question number 6, 7, 8. Then match the following. Question number 9, 10 and then the 11th and 12th questions. You can write the answers in your notebook and send a clear image to my personal number. Tomorrow you will have a Google Meet. So all of you study well. I will ask questions. Okay, children. See you next class. Thank you.